What's going on, friends? Many of you have mentioned in the comments that Harley-Davidson always puts form over function. Well, if you've been around Harley-Davidson a while, you may not even noticed it, or hell, you may not even paid attention to it and or cared. One thing you will notice about Harley-Davidson is that they very rarely put anything on their motorcycles that is an afterthought. Well, at least they used to. Harley-Davidson is changing, and they're starting to do things that make them look just like any other motorcycle out on the market. Harley-Davidson is really losing what made the motorcycles in the brand unique. Now, at the same time, Harley-Davidson's styling department, they won out on some things that maybe engineering should have had a little more say in, and maybe engineering should have won out on. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Harley-Davidson for years was staunchly against radiators, oil coolers, anything that they felt like would detract from the look of the motorcycle. Now, we found out years ago, in pretty short order, when it came to the twin cam engines, that they probably should have had a factory oil cooler. And in fact, engineering wanted a factory oil cooler, but styling was not going to allow that to happen. So the compromise was they went with the bigger fin cylinders on these bikes, which helped, wasn't great, still needed the oil cooler, but they weren't going to put an oil cooler on the bike and have it detract from the look that they were going for. And as I mentioned, as we know now, the twin cams, they definitely needed an oil cooler, especially as they got bigger and started increasing in displacement, and damn sure after they went fuel injected. Fortunately though, for a long time, Harley-Davidson did find ways to make the unpretty parts actually flow and look good on the motorcycle. And that's kind of where we're getting today, is I feel like they're really kind of starting to lose that little edge that they used to have. Now, when Harley-Davidson did actually start putting factory oil coolers on the bikes, the touring bikes mainly, they put them down low, which I didn't really like because I felt like you picked up a lot of road debris there, but what are you going to do? You don't really want to hang it off the side of your bike. They put them down low, they fit with the motorcycles, they flowed really well with the motorcycles, and they did their job as intended. You didn't even really notice it unless you were paying attention. Now, unlike a lot of other manufacturers, they just slapped it on the front of the motorcycle, wherever, whatever, and went on down the road. It stuck out like a sore thumb on them, and that is something I've always appreciated about Harley-Davidson, is that they found ways to incorporate those really unpretty parts into the bike. Now, obviously, if you've got a high-performance engine, you're putting out a lot of heat, you're making a lot of horsepower, having an oil cooler hanging out the bike really ain't such a big deal because the magic's in the motor, and that oil cooler hanging out there is kind of a badge of honor, but you can't have that on a factory bike. Now, I've noticed a trend with Harley-Davidson, and a lot of you have pointed this out. For me personally, everything up to 2016, I could pick out all kinds of bikes where I was just like, yeah, take my money. But 2017 and up, the bikes were still nice, but they're kind of losing a little bit of the character and the things that were like, yeah, I like that, especially for me. Now, I don't know how you guys feel. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably gave up on Harley-Davidson years and years ago when the fuel injection started, or maybe even earlier. But you guys let me know in the comments what year of Harley-Davidson, what was your cutoff year where there was nothing out there that said, take my money? Now that we've moved into the 2024 models, its redesign is different, it's all new. I'm not saying it's bad, I can foresee some problems down the road, but these bikes, to me personally, just don't have that character. And maybe that's what Harley-Davidson was going for, was trying to move forward into kind of a new modern era. But as for me personally, Harley-Davidson just doesn't have anything that's really eye-catching for me like there used to be. I still appreciate the new motorcycles, but I don't think I'm ready for them, and I'm curious, are a lot of you guys ready for them yet? Harley-Davidson has a big challenge going forward with things having to modernize a little bit due to the EPA and the government. They've got to find a balance where they can keep it a Harley-Davidson and hide those bits that were previously unimaginable to even think of being on a Harley-Davidson, like the radiators, for example. Now, I mentioned most manufacturers just stick the oil cooler, the radiator on the front of the motorcycle and go on down the road. Now, when Willie G was in office at Harley-Davidson and the V-Rod come around, this is that big step for Harley-Davidson. They didn't just hang that on the front of the motorcycle. Yes, it's got a big cover over it, the radiator is well hidden, but that radiator cover on the V-Rod is actually highly functional. That actually has scoops on the side of it which intake air, pass it through the radiator, and expel it behind the radiator and out the sides of the bike. Actually works pretty damn well, and that's part of the reason why I love the V-Rod, is it was all Harley-Davidson, even though it was water-cooled, but it had that styling. It had that nice little touch to it. Now, I know a lot of Harley riders and Harley fans out there, you guys are not big fans of anything liquid-cooled when it comes to Harley-Davidson. But when it came to the V-Rod, I think they did a really good job on that motorcycle, unlike the new Sportsters. That thing on there that just looks like an afterthought. Even in 2014, when twin cooling was first introduced, they had the radiators kind of tucked away and hidden away on the touring bikes, on the crash bars. Well, I don't want to say crash bars. I hate saying that. We'll say highway bars, engine guards. They had them encased in there, and I thought they made it flow really well with the motorcycle. It looked pretty damn good to me. And honestly, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would say, oh, hey, Harley-Davidson, air-to-oil cooling. You wouldn't think anything of it. You would not know that there were radiators hidden back there unless somebody pointed it out to you. I was guilty of that. Now, in the more modern era with the updated crash highway bars, engine guards, the new updated engine guards on these bikes, they're a little lower, a little sleeker, hiding those and encasing those, hanging off the highway bars, engine guards. That just isn't going to be the case anymore with these new style that they came out with. So I like what they did. They took the radiator, put it down low in place of where the oil cooler normally was. It's something that your eyes were already trained to seeing on the touring motorcycles, but instead of being the oil cooler down there, it's the radiator. It's encased in kind of that little chin spoiler. It actually looks pretty good, and you just don't have this big old monstrosity hanging out on the front of your Street Glide, Electric Glide, Road Glide. Looks pretty good, honestly. Not great, still getting used to it, but it could be worse. It is just a matter of time before the Softail line is actually going to have to probably end up being twin-cooled at a minimum. Now, Harley-Davidson did a great job with the oil coolers, tucking them between the down tubes of the frame. Now, I really hope for the Softail line, they do not do what they did on the new Sportsters and just kind of stick it out there and put a bunch of plastic crap on it. That's not really going to flow with the look of the Softails. The Softails are still kind of the classic Harley-Davidson look that we all know and love. The Sportsters, they're right now, I hate to admit, I can't even believe I'm talking bad about Sportsters like this, but these new Sportsters just aren't the same. They're not bad bikes, but they're not like they used to be. They're a little more generic, they're a little more stamped out and not crafted like the previous generations. So the radiator on the front of those and the way that looks, it just kind of fits with the bike, and I hate to say that. So definitely with the Softail being more true to Harley-Davidson's roots, I mean, the best we can be these days, I really hope that we see Harley-Davidson come out with a nice, clean solution if the Softails actually end up going twin-cooled. Hopefully we don't go from air cooling to water cooling on those and they go the way of the new Sportsters. Times are changing at Harley-Davidson, and unfortunately they're having to change with them and go and basically try to build Harley-Davidson motorcycles around what the EPA and the government's going to allow them to do. Water cooling, I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm probably just going to have to bite that bullet and accept that with Harley-Davidson. I'm still out on full electric. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments where you're at on that. But guys, let me know in the comments, do you guys feel like Harley-Davidson is really doing the best they could do right now to keeping the form, the function, and the styling Harley-Davidson while still being within the confines of what the EPA and the government's putting them in as far as having to meet emissions regulations and not have the motorcycles absolutely melt down? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars. I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.